All right, unfortunately, you've seen the headlines of shooting at a mall and a movie theater, and just last week, another school in Washington state. What's being done to prepare for and respond to these acts of terrorism and similar emergencies to commercial properties, including office buildings, shopping malls, warehouses, and where you work? Here with everything you need to know, lifestyle lawyer and your advocate, Shari, a very important topic we're talking about here.
Horrible.
But here's the side note, kind of. How can these owners of these properties prepare for these horrific events that we talked about?
Here's the thing, Mike. The formula is very simple. You assess the risk, you mitigate the hazards, and then you put a solid emergency response plan in place. The problem is that's difficult to do, and it's very costly. If you look at malls, for example, you've got a property with multiple entrances. Everyone's carrying around a big package. You've got large groups of people congregating in food courts, for example, delivery trucks coming and going. So it's really difficult to mitigate the potential risks there. But if we look at a country like Israel, for example, that's been dealing with this much longer than we have, you go to a mall there, deliveries are only allowed during hours when people aren't there. The stores are closed. There are security screeners, metal detectors at all of the entrances. People aren't allowed to congregate and loiter, and you have actual armed security guards, not the mall security that we have here. The question becomes, though, how much cost do we want owners to incur, because they're going to pass that on to us? And would you really go to a mall that you had to pass through a security screen? I mean, you may actually think, if not everyone did it, you might think, wow, there's something wrong with this mall, or it's inconvenient, and so there's actually a disincentive for owners to take more steps.
It's that American way that we love, and sometimes, you see the
love it and live with it.
Yeah, love and live with it. Okay, we can talk about now what steps actually are being taken to protect and respond to these types of risks.
Sure. Well, the biggest thing that happened after September 11th was the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, because the problem was, as soon as the Twin Towers came down, every insurance company in the world said, we don't want to insure against these risks anymore. So Congress passed this act, which essentially made terrorism insurance, domestic and foreign insurance, available for commercial property owners, because most of the lenders actually require that. But unfortunately, we don't have state or federal national standards like they do in a country like Israel, for example. So it's really up to the industries to police themselves and monitor themselves. And for the reasons we talked about, they really haven't been doing that.
And if you're yourself trying to protect yourself in these type of public places, what can you do?
Sure. Well, I mean, the obvious response would be, or the people who really survive are the ones who are able to respond quickly and get themselves out of the situation. In order to do that, you really constantly need to keep yourself aware of your environment, particularly know where those emergency doors are, and keep an eye out for suspicious activity, which you report and obviously steer clear of. Aside from that, unless we want to pay the increased amount, I mean, in Israel, they're paying 40% of the operating budget goes for security versus maybe 2 to 3% here. So it's really up to us to keep our eyes and ears open.
Sure is. One of those things you just don't want to think about, but when you do, you're better planned.
Absolutely.
And always a better plan with Shari. Thank you for joining us. Halani, back to you now.
Thanks, Mike. Developing now, a man in